woke up this morning feeling slightly ambitious, and so I decided to tackle an Indian adaptation of Jane Eyre and to do my hair like this for the video. I had thought that watching the Italian version was going to be really hard, but it actually turned out that since Italian is a Romance language, I was actually able to follow along pretty well, and I knew more Italian than I thought. Not so with the Indian movie. I didn't understand a word that anybody said ever. So, for a 2-hour and 15-minute runtime, it was pretty hard, and I only found out just how much I missed of the story when I read a review that someone had posted on IMDb. This film was obviously produced in India, 1952. It's called Sangdil. I'm probably saying that wrong, and I'm not going to try to pronounce any more Indian words because I don't want to mess it up. So, that's the best you're going to get from me. I knew already that it was considered a loose adaptation of Jane Eyre, so I didn't have demanding expectations. And that was good because the first section of it was really confusing because the Jane character and the Rochester character, they know each other as kids. They're really good friends. The Jane character kind of has a Cinderella thing going on, but she fantasizes about being rich. But in the middle of that fantasy, suddenly this woman comes out of nowhere and starts screaming at her and chasing her all through this castle. And then her friend, the Rochester character, as a boy, comes and rescues her, and they go riding off into the sun. They're in the sky on a horse, singing. And there's a lot of singing in this. I don't think I've ever seen a Bollywood movie. So it was all a little bit different for me. Different culture. The style of everything was very Indian. Jane Eyre now with 5 musical sequences. And dancing. So that whole fantasy thing was really different, and I was like, how is this gonna... This doesn't have anything to do with Jane Eyre. Except then things start to come in with Brocklehurst's character, and then she ends up in this kind of temple place with other people. There's ceremonies and things. And she then leaves there and ends up at this place. I don't know. Things happen. Horse scene. And she meets Rochester. So these are the two people grown up, right? And I think she recognizes him, but he doesn't recognize her. It was frustrating a little bit because I couldn't understand what they were saying, so I couldn't tell. Does he know that she's his childhood friend or not? And is he saying that he's in love with her? Because it seemed like he was flirting with her, but he also had this other girl that he was flirting with. And then he follows her to this temple place. He finds her praying, and he kind of backs off. And but the second half, as far as I could tell, which wasn't very far at all, did follow the story more closely, and it was some pretty cool stuff. This old guy shows up while the Rochester character has gone off, and he's got a little goatee on and a turban, and he's telling her something, and she's all upset, and then he says something. Maybe it's an intimation that he does, in fact, remember her from childhood. And she turns around, and the guy's peeling off his thing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you guys! It's the gypsy scene! A little bit turned around. And then he goes to the Blanche character, reads her palm and tells her things. And I was like, hey, that's really cool. Most people leave that out of their adaptations, but you guys, you put it in. I'm so proud of you. And that kind of viewer volatility happened a lot, where I'd be going along and I'm like, alright, I don't know what's happening here. What is this scene supposed to signify? And then all of a sudden something would happen, and I was like, I get it, I know what's happening here, and hey, this is cool. So it made for kind of an up and down experience. I can't really come out for it or against it because I missed so much dialogue. And because of that, I missed a lot of things. If you go and read the IMDb review, it's called Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre in India, I think, or Charlotte Bronte in India. That reviewer pointed out something that I had kind of missed or not gotten the full effect of, which is that this is one of the first or one of the only versions that really delves into Jane's or the Jane character's religious convictions, which I think is very important. And of course, it's not in an English vein, it's translated to the Indian culture, but I think it worked that way. It's not Indian people pretending to be English, they have taken the base of the story and adapted it into their culture. At the same time, I can't really be like, oh yeah, sure, it works as a Jane Eyre, because I don't know if the dialogue was right. I'd say for me, dialogue is one of the top 3 most important things about a Jane Eyre adaptation. And, well, there wasn't really much here for me. I guess overall, I'd say that was an interesting experiment. I'm glad I watched it. I highly recommend that you go on IMDb, look up the movie. There's a link somewhere here. And read the review. It helped clarify a couple things for me after I had watched the movie. And, it's just a good review, so you should check it out. Thanks for watching, and if somebody out there in the world could add subtitles to that movie, that would be amazing.